This movie became the most watched in Netflix history. But what is it about a group of demon hunter girls that connected so much with audiences? What are the hidden messages behind it? What can we learn from its story, or what is it warning us about? Here we're going to break it all down. In a packed stadium in South Korea, thousands of fans await the Huntrix show, unaware the group not only shines on stage, but also secretly wages a dangerous war against creatures from another world. Years ago, the planet was invaded by demons who fed on souls to strengthen their king, Guima. Everything changed when three magical warriors united through music emerged. Their voices, filled with courage and hope, repelled the demons and also awakened people's strength, creating a powerful shield called Hunman. Since then, each generation has chosen a new trio of hunters to continue the fight and forge the ultimate barrier, the Golden Hunman. Now, Celine reveals to Mira, Rumi, and Zoe, members of Huntrix, that they are the ones who will achieve the final victory with their voices and their song. Mira is the main dancer, known for her rebellious character. Zoe, the youngest in the group, comes from Burbank and stands out as a rapper and songwriter. Rumi, pop heiress and daughter of a Sunlight sister, was raised by Celine, who created Huntrix. Her voice is impressive. Before their biggest show, they travel in their private jet while their manager Bobby, nervous, pressures them for answers. Then they discover the plane isn't landing, and when confronting a flight attendant, Rumi sees demonic marks on her arm. The supposed attendants reveal their true identity. They are demons planning to destroy the fans waiting in the stadium. The girls unleash their magical powers and, after a fierce battle against the demons, manage to defeat them, though some manage to escape. They head straight to the stadium and Zoe finishes the last enemy with her sacred sword. Then, Huntrix begins their long-awaited concert, and in the middle of the show, the Hunman shield lights up golden, spreading across the region and trapping the remaining demons. In the underworld, a demon returns to report his failure, but Guima incinerates him without hesitation, making it clear he will no longer tolerate mistakes. The rest are paralyzed with fear. At that moment, Janu appears, accompanied by a demonic tiger and his group, playing a sinister melody. He proposes a plan to create a fake musical group to deceive and defeat the hunters once and for all. The plan is to steal Huntrix's fans, slowly weakening the Hunman until it finally collapses. Guima agrees to give Janu a chance, but asks him what he wants in return. Janu answers that the only thing he desires is to have all his memories erased. After finishing their tour, the Huntrix girls plan to rest 2 weeks, but Rumi takes the chance to release the new single Golden. Although her friends are exhausted, the news that the song becomes an instant success pushes them to keep going. In a live interview, they announce a concert that same night to perform it. Backstage, everyone prepares against the clock. Rumi, alone in a dressing room, discovers strange demonic marks on her arms. She tries to ignore them and go on stage, but her voice fails twice in a row. Frustrated, she asks for a break while Bobby panics because outside the fans are already waiting impatiently. In her dressing room, Rumi discovers with horror that the demonic marks on her skin have spread and threaten her voice. Desperate, she flees through the city, remembering what Celine once confessed. She is the daughter of a demon and a magical warrior, and those marks will disappear once the Golden Hunman is sealed. In that memory, little Rumi sang the original Hunter's mantra, whose literal translation says, "We are hunters, strong voices, killing demons with our song. Repair the world and do what is right when darkness finally meets the light." Celine convinced her to keep her origin secret. Exhausted, she reaches a rooftop and tries to sing, but when her vocal cords fail, she screams in frustration, releasing a shockwave that frightens her even more. Here, we can begin to analyze Rumi. As we just saw, she is the daughter of a hunter and a demon, and that double heritage has become a burden, not so much for what it means itself, but for what she has been taught to feel about it. Instead of integrating both parts, they instilled shame toward half of her being. The marks on her skin are the reminder of that shame. I find it very meaningful that when she was first shown in a photo with Celine, her arms were bare and no marks were visible. When we are children, we still don't feel shame for what we are, but the moment Rumi began questioning her identity, Celine taught her to hide that side of herself. That's when shame was born, and with it appeared the first marks. I liked this because it reflects quite well how our insecurities are born. Children don't come into the world ashamed. Shame is learned, social. It arises when parents, teachers, or the environment make us feel that there are parts of ourselves that must not be shown. Inappropriate emotions, ways of being, desires, or flaws. From those signals, we build in our minds an ideal image of what we should be to deserve love and acceptance. And every time we feel we fail before that image, inner critical voice appears, like Guima in the movie. In Rumi's case, Celine taught her to despise her own nature, repeated that nobody would accept her and that she must stay quiet and hide. Rumi ended up believing that she herself was a mistake and repressed all her life a fundamental part of herself, and her voice eventually revealed that fracture when it began to fail. This detail also felt very symbolic to me. Beyond the literal, singing is an expression of the soul, a manifestation of authenticity. But since Rumi represses an essential part of herself, her voice fails. We hear her forcing a tone that doesn't sound like hers, forcing something that doesn't fit. Her voice, her soul, cannot flow because it is divided against itself. When her voice broke, the marks expanded. Each time it becomes harder for her to escape what she has tried to repress. But her reaction was to keep hiding it, covering herself more, because that was what she was taught her whole life. That is the doctrine of Selene and of the Hunters. Hide what you don't like about yourself, your flaws, silence your fears. Even Rumi and Zoe, though friends, have internalized that logic, and we'll see it later on. That's why they never shared their vulnerabilities before. And if we think about it, the fight against demons reflects the same dynamic. If we understand demons as projections of shame, fears, and inner flaws, what the Hunters do is not face them at the root, but repress them, insult them, hate them, as if that would make them disappear. As the movie shows, that strategy is only a temporary patch. The blue Hunman, that barrier against demons, is rigid and uniform, built from repression and denial. It looks strong, but in reality it is fragile. Hiding and repressing what we haven't processed or integrated is not a real solution. That's why that Hunman feels unstable and cannot hold as a definitive answer. Rumi then will not be able to find her authentic voice as long as she keeps feeling ashamed of what she is. Rumi returns to the apartment and confesses that her voice is destroyed. Zoe and Mira encourage her, reminding her they have 2 weeks to recover and that together they can handle anything. The next day, they go to a clinic where Dr. Han attends them. He tells Rumi that to heal one part, it is necessary to understand the whole, and that she has raised many walls. She denies it, insisting that she only tries to stay focused. Han replies that focusing is fine, but doing it on a single part makes her ignore the rest and isolates her emotionally. Rumi and the girls dismiss him, saying they only came for the tonic, and Han finally gives it to them. As they leave, they run into a group of attractive boys. One of them pushes Rumi and ignores her. Soon after, they discover they are the Saya Boys, a boy band that are actually demons. Although the audience is fascinated, the girls grow suspicious and decide to prepare with suits and weapons. They sneak into one of their shows, but the Saya Boys catch them and force them on stage, sending them down a slide. The girls contain their anger to avoid alarming the audience and follow the Saya Boys into the bathroom. There, Jinu opens portals in the toilets, releasing a wave of water demons. Rumi faces Jinu while Zoe and Mira fight against the creatures. The Hunman barrier begins to weaken and more demons invade the human world. Rumi attacks Jinu, but he dodges easily. Noticing the demonic marks on her arm, Jinu is surprised while Rumi freezes in fear that her friends might discover her marks. However, Jinu covers her with a piece of cloth, giving her a moment to breathe. Finally, Rumi helps her friends defeat the last demons. Back at Huntrix headquarters, the girls feel the weight of the situation. The Hunman is collapsing and the Saya Boys have just gone viral. Rumi explains that the real battle will be at the Idol Awards, where they must deliver an unforgettable show with a new song that exposes and destroys them. Zoe contributes her notebooks full of insults for demons, and Mira proposes a sensual choreography. That night, Rumi discovers her tonic was just grape juice, and later is guided by a blackbird to Jinu's tiger, who delivers her a letter summoning her in secret. Rumi agrees to go. Although perhaps many did not take Dr. Han seriously, what he said was very wise and points to what Rumi truly needs to do. He insisted that to heal one part, you must understand everything. You cannot heal by focusing only on one fragment while ignoring the rest. In other words, Rumi will not be able to recover her voice while she keeps trying to silence and repress her demonic side. I really like this because it resonates a lot with what happens in therapy. A symptom is often an unspoken word. What we keep quiet or avoid expressing, the body ends up showing. In Rumi, the marks on her skin work exactly like the physical expression of everything she has not allowed herself to feel or show. That is why the tonic was nothing more than simple grape juice. She doesn't need medicine. What she needs is to accept herself as she is, reconcile with all her parts in order to recover her authentic voice. Of course, it isn't easy. She has spent her whole life hearing the opposite. Unlearning something so ingrained is a hard and slow process. Rumi arrives and tries to attack Jinu, but he, calm, asks her to talk. He tells her that she is both hunter and demon, and that he understands what it is like to live with marks. She denies it. She insists she is a warrior, not a demon, and she doesn't believe demons are capable of feeling. Jinu answers that is the only thing they do. Feel. Shame? Misery? That's how Guima controls them. He asks her if she has never heard her own voice, but Rumi doesn't understand. Then, Jinu tells her his story. About 400 years ago, his family was poor and starving. They only had an old pipe with which he went out to play without success. Desperate, he heard Guima telling him he didn't deserve his family, but that he could help him make it. In an instant, everything changed. They praised his voice. Even the king and his family moved into the palace with food and clean clothes, but the marks consumed him, him and condemned him to the demonic world, making his family lose everything. Since then, Guima reminds him that he abandoned them and fills him with shame. Hey, what's up? Jinu explains that Rumi's marks are also reminders of her own shame. She insists that she is not like him. Jinu replies that he also denied it, but that he will be there when she stops pretending. In the following days, Huntrix work tirelessly on their new song, Takedown, while the Saya Boys gain more popularity and the Hyunmun weakens, releasing more demons. Jinu's tiger tries to deliver another letter to Rumi, but she rejects it and leaves him outside. During a signing event, the Saya interrupt and Huntrix lose half of their fans. To not lose them completely, Rumi suggests sharing the event peacefully. While they sign, Rumi reproaches Jinu for helping Guima only to silence the voices in his head. She finds it pathetic, but Jinu replies that she cannot even talk about her marks. Rumi says she hates them, just like she hates demons and Guima. Jinu answers that if hate worked to defeat him, he would have done it already. Then a little girl gives him a drawing, telling him his soul is precious, which impacts him. Rumi suggests he listen to those voices of hope instead of those of Guima. That night, Rumi writes lyrics filled with insults against Guima, but starts wondering if hate is really the best way to defeat him. Jinu's tiger keeps her company in her room. Suddenly, Mira surprises her and confronts her for changing the song and for talking with Jinu. Rumi denies it, and Mira leaves without seeing the tiger. Later, Rumi decides to meet Jinu and proposes another way out, to help her win the Idol Awards, since once the Hunman is sealed, he would also be freed. They talk about mistakes and guilt. Rumi confesses she has felt like a mistake since birth, but Jinu contradicts her. Then, a vendor gives Rumi a bracelet telling her that boy has no hope. She gives it to Jinu, and in the middle of a tension full of feelings, the two say goodbye. After days of rehearsals, Rumi admits she is not satisfied with the new song. Mira asks her what she is hiding, but before Rumi can answer, a shockwave suddenly explodes. The trio run to the subway where hundreds of demons attack. They use their voices as weapons and manage to repel many, but a boss demon seriously injures Rumi by throwing her against the walls of the car. Mira and Zoe run to help their friend and launch a joint attack. Mira drives her weapon into the ground and generates a shockwave that wipes out the nearby enemies. But it was already too late. The subway passengers had been captured by the dark forces. When they reach the station, Mira tells Rumi that now the song doesn't matter. Everything is at stake and they must face it together. Zoe assures her that she supports her, though this time it's hard to understand her, and reminds her they cannot win without her voice. Rumi asks her to trust her and promises they will achieve victory. Hours later, Rumi visits Jinu, who tells her he doesn't think he can help her win. She answers that he actually already helped her because she spent her life hiding her shame until it began destroying her voice. But since she met him, she has started to heal. Together they sing Free, a melody where they recognize their fears and dark sides and how only by facing them can they be free and heal what is broken. When they finish, Jinu is surprised to notice that Guima's disturbing voice no longer echoes in his mind as before. Moved, Jinu promises to help her and sabotage his own band. Jinu has given Rumi a new perspective on demons. He was the first one to see her marks without judging or rejecting her. On the contrary, he helped her cover them so that no one else would notice and respected her secret. And this planted trust in her to seek him out, and with time, she understood that demons weren't the evil beings she had been taught all her life, but beings trapped by their fears, their flaws, and their shame. By understanding this, she was able to look at them with compassion, but also at herself. One of the most powerful and important moments of the whole movie was the scene where they sang Free together. There, both acknowledged how the other had helped them heal. They are two characters who had always believed their essence was a reason for shame and rejection, but through each other's eyes, they discovered themselves accepted. In that song, they stopped hiding their wounds and showed them without fear, and there was no judgment, but acceptance. They recognized their dark sides, accepted their fears, and understood that facing them is the path to healing and freedom. They made each other feel that neither of them was alone. Support networks have exactly that power. Having people who listen without judgment, who accept you and make you feel understood and validated, can become a huge protective factor against adversity and the hardest emotional moments. So if it's already hard to show ourselves vulnerable, to talk about what shames us, our failures or weaknesses, when someone close to you has the courage to do it with you, listen carefully without interrupting, without judgments. Just listen, without rushing to give advice or solutions. Sometimes it's not about fixing anything, but about being present, listening, and holding. After promising Rumi his help, suddenly Jinu is dragged into the underworld. There, Guima confronts him with his past, reminding him he didn't tell Rumi the truth, that he betrayed and abandoned his own family, and warning him that he cannot escape his reality. Rumi remembers Celine's words about not speaking of her marks. She admits to her friends that she hasn't been her best self in recent days, but trusts that tomorrow they can win if they sing their best song. Mira also opens up, though she was always told her fears and flaws should never be shown. She admits she is often criticized for being temperamental and direct, but with them she feels at peace. Zoe adds that before joining Huntrix, she thought her ideas and lyrics were worthless, but with them they truly have meaning. Rumi confesses that she fears losing them, and that is why they must finish everything. The fears are the demons, and tomorrow they will be able to defeat them forever. Then, they decide to sing Golden because it speaks of their best side. I really like this scene. Although Rumi didn't fully open up, the central idea was clear. The friends who had already been sharing life together finally showed themselves vulnerable and talked about their insecurities. And most important of all is that they found acceptance. Many times our mind, own inner Guima, makes us believe that if we show what we feel, if we let our wounds or fears be seen, we will be rejected, judged, or even lose the love of those around us. That fear of rejection is what keeps so many people trapped in silence. And it's true, it's not about going around sharing everything with everyone. Vulnerability requires the right context, but I do believe we all need safe spaces where we can show ourselves as we are, with trusted friends, with family, with a partner, or even in a therapeutic process. And I encourage anyone to try to seek and create those spaces, because most of the time we are surprised by the acceptance and closeness that appear when we dare to share what we feel. And if in any of those spaces we don't find understanding or acceptance, maybe they were never true bonds in the first place. As night falls, the stadium fills with thousands of excited fans. The host opens the show where Huntrix and the Saya boys will compete for the prize. On their way to the dressing room, the girls cross paths with the Saya boys, and Rumi notices Jinu much more serious and distant. The host announces the Saya boys, and the crowd erupts with excitement. But shortly after, Bobby bursts into the dressing room to warn that they fought on stage. Taking advantage of the situation, he tells Huntrix it's the perfect opportunity to win back their fans. The girls go up on stage and dazzle the audience. In the middle of the song, Zoe and Mira step down to leave Rumi ready for her solo, but they see Bobby being dragged away by security. When they follow him, they discover they were actually 3 demons in disguise. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Take Down, the song they had discarded, begins to play. Rumi is left alone in the dark when 2 demons appear in the shape of her friends. They whisper to her that she's been a mistake since the day she was born. They push her and expose her demonic marks in front of the audience. Trapped by panic, Rumi unleashes an energy blast that destroys the lights and the sound of the stadium. She flees desperately, begging Zoe and Mira not to abandon her. But they, filled with fear and doubt, walk away. Broken and alone, Rumi escapes. Amid the crowd, Rumi runs into Jinu and furiously confronts him. He admits that everything was a lie to earn her trust. She insists that she knows him and that he is a good person who only made a mistake. Then, Jinu confesses that he abandoned his mother and sister after making a deal with Guima to escape his miserable life while he slept among luxuries. Rumi insists that he only has to fight against his inner demon, but Jinu replies that there is no escaping pain and misery, and he leaves. Devastated, Rumi falls into despair and the ground begins to crack beneath her feet, spreading dark energy. Zoe and Mira grow more worried as the Hunmun crumbles, while Bobby notices Huntrix's popularity falling and hears Guima's voice whispering to him, tempting him. Shortly after, Jinu appears on all the screens to announce that the Saya boys will perform a show at Namsan Tower at midnight, promising to cheer fans after Huntrix's breakup. Mira begins to hear Guima's voice telling her that she never deserved a family. When Zoe asks her what they will do without Rumi, Mira, influenced, replies that they are no longer together and that she doesn't deserve to have family. Then, Zoe also hears the voice, which nags that she will never belong anywhere, but that he can give her one. Those who give in to that voice lose control and walk like hypnotized puppets, dragged toward the event. Seeing demons disguised as attractive, talented boys singing catchy songs and dragging crowds to steal their souls, along with the way Guima seduces, makes it impossible not to think about how evil usually hides under a disguise. It rarely shows itself directly in its rawest and most terrifying form. To seduce and deceive, it needs a mask, a disguise. That is something many religions and cultures have repeated since always. In the Christian tradition, for example, in Corinthians 11:14 we read, "Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light." And it makes sense. If evil showed itself as it is, no one would ever choose it. But when it dresses as what we most desire or need, it becomes irresistible. That is exactly what we see in the Saya boys and in Guima. He feeds on people's insecurities and offers them exactly what they feel they lack: recognition, beauty, belonging, or success. But like every temptation, the price is extremely high. What seems like a gift ends up being a trap, and those who fall end up under his control. There are tons of examples in real life, and that's why this is a spiritual teaching that repeats so often. There are the charismatic leaders who promise a bright future but end up oppressing their followers. Or the relationships where someone appears charming and good, but what they truly seek deep down is to dominate and control. We even see it in social phenomena like marketing and consumer culture, which sell us packaged happiness but actually feed our shortcomings even more. The initial appeal becomes a bait. Evil hides in the promise of easy solutions, in attractive disguises. It takes advantage of our wounds to make its way and, like Guima, takes our fears and insecurities and magnifies them until the only thing we can see is what our pain allows us. And if we don't learn to recognize it and to know ourselves, we risk ending up like puppets, without voice or freedom, and serving intentions that aren't ours, just like the victims of the Saya boys. Meanwhile, Rumi, with her marks exposed, confronts Celine. She tells her she cannot keep hiding hiding and asks her to end her. Celine refuses, reminding her of the promise to protect what was left of her mother, though she admits she was always taught that Rumi's nature was wrong. Rumi accuses her of asking her to hide, and though Celine insists it was only until they found a solution, Rumi refuses to keep hiding and reproaches her for not loving her as she is. Celine, unable to look at her, answers that they must hide it to protect the Hunman. Rumi, furious, says that if that is the Hunman she must protect, she would rather destroy it, and disappears. We had seen how Rumi had progressed in her acceptance process thanks to her relationship with Jinu, but all that progress shattered when he pretended it had all been a lie and the Saya boys exposed her in front of everyone. Her fears overwhelmed her, the shame intensified, and the marks spread until they covered her face. Even her friends rejected her. At that lowest point, Rumi went as far as asking Celine to eliminate her, and still, the only thing Celine could offer was the same as always: more repression and more shame. But paradoxically, hitting rock bottom awakened Rumi. She realized she doesn't have to be perfect. She acknowledged her insecurities, her flaws and contradictions, and understood that all of that is also part of who she is. That acceptance completes her and prepares her to recover her voice. Jinu and his group begin their demonic feast. They step onto the stage in their royal costumes and sing with a chilling energy. Guima grows stronger by feeding on the crowd that advances, hypnotized toward the infernal cracks. Just when everything seems lost, Rumi suddenly appears. Her powerful voice promises that the demons will fall and her light will shine. Guima tells her she cannot heal the world or herself, and Rumi admits it. He adds that now everyone sees her as she truly is, and she accepts it. Then, Guima declares that the Hunman no longer exists, to which Rumi replies that she knows and that they can create another. Then, Rumi sings, "This is what it sounds like," opening up completely about her scars and the darkness she lived, freeing Zoe and Mira from the trance. Together, the three sing with strength and hope, defeating the demons while the Hunman shines brighter than ever. The Huntrix embrace and their outfits transform into more powerful versions, ready for the final battle. Guima hurls a huge fireball at Rumi, but Jinu appears, saves her, and tells her she freed him by giving back his soul, handing it to her to give her a new power. With fury and determination, Rumi splits Guima in two, and together with her friends, they finish off the Saya boys. United in a song that channels the strength of their fans, they destroy Guima once and for all. With the Hunman restored in the world, peace and hope return, and the girls celebrate their victory among applause. In the end, we saw how, with the strength of having integrated all her parts, Rumi returned to the stadium to fight against Guima. The key moment for me was when Jinu stepped in to save her. He told her that she had given him back his soul, and now he was giving it to her. And with that, Jinu redeemed himself. And Rumi also understood at that moment that what they had shared had truly been real. She realized that if a complete demon could redeem himself and become something beyond his flaws and insecurities, then her own demonic side was never a curse. It was part of her story, and she could finally stop hating herself for it, accept herself as she is, and decide from there who she wants to be. And all this made me rethink the Hunters mantra. Let's go over it. We are hunters, strong voices, killing demons with our song. Repair the world and do what is right when darkness finally meets the light. Pay attention to the last part, when darkness finally meets the light. It doesn't speak of defeating, it doesn't say overcoming, it speaks of an encounter. What it proposes is not the destruction of one pole by the other, but the union of both. The world will be repaired, says the mantra, not when darkness disappears, but when it can be integrated with the light. And yes, this generation of hunters was the one called to fulfill that prophecy, because Rumi was literally the fruit of the union between darkness and light. We might think that Jinu's mother made a mistake by joining a demon, but what the movie seems to tell us is that she didn't. There was the answer. All the previous generations of hunters misinterpreted the prophecy. It was not about repressing or separating or destroying, but about integrating. Rumi's mother understood that hunters and demons did not have to be enemies. They could connect in a genuine way and coexist. The relationship between Jinu and Rumi is a reflection of that same story. A demon and a hunter who discovered that understanding and even love was possible between those who seemed destined to clash. Rumi, then, was the prophecy. She was the encounter between light and darkness, and through that union she managed to repair the world. We see it reflected in the Hunman at the end. It was no longer blue, rigid, and uniform, built on repression, nor an idealized golden, but a blend of blue and purple. Two different energies that, when integrated, create a stronger protection, because protection built on truth is more powerful than one raised on lies and denial. It was also very symbolic that the song with which Rumi recovered her voice awakened her friends, and together they defeated Guima was not something rehearsed nor written beforehand, but arose spontaneously. It was an authentic chant born from the deepest part of them. In that chorus, they all sang in harmony, at the same level, repeating, "This is what it sounds like." This is what intensity sounds like, the voice that appears when we accept what we are, with our fears, our shadows, and our light. And it was from that integrated voice that they managed to defeat Guima. To close, I want to leave you with this reflection. Many people are weighed down by that inner inner voice that makes us feel shame for what we are, for our fears, our flaws, our insecurities, or some aspect of our history we wish we could erase, and then we try to hide it, as if by covering it up it would stop existing. But the truth is that those parts, no matter how uncomfortable, also form a part of our identity. Denying or hating them doesn't make them disappear. On the contrary, they grow heavier in the shadows. Acceptance does not mean resigning yourself or letting fears or flaws dominate you. It also doesn't mean that they define you completely. It is about a process of integration, to recognize that this is also you, that it is part of your story, and that by facing it directly, it stops having the same power over you. If you hide your most fragile parts, you live divided against yourself. But when you choose to look at them honestly, without judging yourself, you begin to reconcile with yourself. And in that place of integration, we can find the freedom that repression cannot give us. Freedom to choose what to do with what we are. Freedom to decide from the wholeness of what we are, where we want to go, and what kind of people we want to become. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Remember that if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you can do it right now and you'd help me a lot. And you and I will see each other in the next video.